And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today on this Monday. All right, my people, it is Monday, and as always on Monday, we are going to get to the super thanks from throughout the week. And here are the comments that people have to say, and this has been this has been an exciting week, people, for the wrong reasons, not because of basketball. But because of the ridiculousness happening between LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith. But before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to the channel members. Shout out to Gary, aka G the Great One, Dr. Les Barrett, Thanos Snap Feminism, Keith Brazell, Charles Hooker, In the Groove 56, Vernon Lee Warren, Wizman Ballin, Great Juice, Siberius, Moonside, Alexander X, The Real Heisenberg, Mary Lewis, and Adidas 20. Thank you all so very much for being members of the channel, and thank you all so very, very much for your continued support of the channel. And without further ado, let's get into the super thanks. First up, shout out to @TheRealSiberius. This is coming from my viewer's comment on LeBron James from last week. He comes through with the $2 super thanks. And he says, the wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, but the folly of fools is deception. The laughable thing is LeBron James, for some reason, thinks he is smarter than all of us. He believes he is intelligent. He believes he is clever. He believes he never will be caught. The truth always comes out in the end. His house of cards will crumble, and even his fanboys will abandon him in the end. Now that one, I'm not quite so sure. That is going to be the thing that we all have to wait and see. Hey, fanboys, when your king hits the bottom, we're going to see how big of fans you really were. Will you stick with your king through thick and thin? Or will you come join reality? But he continues, he says, I would absolutely love for LeBron James camp to put Jordan's career under the microscope. When you point at someone, three fingers are pointing back at you. They are so delusional they fail to understand that Jordan's career wasn't manufactured and can withstand scrutiny. LeBron's can't. If they want to attempt to pick apart greatness, they need to understand the same thing can happen to them, and they are not the Rock that Jordan is. They don't want someone counting every assist. Too late. Shout out to Angry Old Hoops. Too late. Shout out to Angry Old Hoops. They don't want someone counting every assist that isn't an assist, every rebound that isn't a rebound, every foul that wasn't real. Please, Uncut Clutch Sports, do it. I beg you. Well, shout out to The Real Siberius. Well, we know that they've already attempted this. They already attempted this. Well, I can't remember the guy who was associated with Nick Wright, but he did the whole thing where they went and tried to pick apart Jordan's Defensive Player of the Year because LeBron was crying that he didn't have one. And, exactly like you said, when you start doing stuff like that, then it's going to happen to you. The difference is, like you said, Jordan's career wasn't manufactured. Now, whether there were a few steals that were counted that may not have been steals or whatever the case, what your eyes saw when you watched Jordan was much greater than what your eyes see when you watch LeBron James. It is really that simple. You can throw the stats out the window. What your eyes see when you watch Michael Jordan is much greater than what your eyes see when you watch LeBron James. When you watch Michael Jordan, you truly see someone who had a will that couldn't be conquered. And when you watch LeBron James, sometimes you wonder if this guy has a will at all. And like I said, Angry Old Hoops has done plenty of videos where he shows the fraudulent assists, the fraudulent rebounds that LeBron James gets so often. And then, even if outside of that, even if we didn't count the fraudulent ones, you still got to take into account that they just call these things differently nowadays. Regardless of what the rule book still says, they call these things differently. They let these players travel and carry, and again, assists is like back in the day, assists had to lead directly to a score, directly. But nowadays, you can pass somebody the ball and they can take a trip around the world. And once they get done taking that trip and put the ball in the basket, you will still receive credit for the assist. So it's so many things about this modern era and about the LeBron James era and about LeBron James' manufactured legacy, because that's what it is, fanboys, that, this guy really doesn't want people scrutinizing him. It's LeBron James. It's best to just be quiet, stop going on Pat McAfee and different shows. Just be quiet. You're already the number one hated athlete. What more do you want? Anyway, let's move on. Next up, shout out to @Swan Daily coming through with the $2 super thanks. This is coming from my Michael Jordan's leadership style would not work in today's NBA. And if you LeBron James fanboys remember the reason, that's because there aren't any real men in the modern NBA. It's a bunch of soft, weak-minded showboaters. He says, it's funny that you bring up the $1 million analogy a lot, because a lot of millionaires who earn their wealth by fraudulent means often lose it quickly. Hilariously enough, a lot of those guys are red pill grifters who actually aren't that masculine. LOL. Let's see what LeBron's net worth looks like after his retirement. He might end up like Kanye West. Shout out to @Swan Daily. Like I said, I can't remember what I might have brought up about the red pill, and that is probably an example I've used a few times on this channel, and that's Kevin Samuels. Like I said, I don't agree with everything in the red pill, probably a lot of things in the red pill, but I definitely agree with some things. And like I said, if you listen to Kevin Samuels, no matter what you think about what he has to say, if you break it down to its essence, it is a message that you cannot deny. And that is, are your actions getting you the results that you want? And there's really no other argument outside of that. Because if you're not getting the results that you want, that means that your actions need to change. It's that simple. In other words, LeBron James, if in year 22 people still don't see you as the GOAT, that means that everything you did wasn't the right way. That means that everything you did left room for doubt. And as a matter of fact, I would argue like you did something much worse than that, because what you did was really polarize the debate around yourself. So now you have like a legion of fanboys who worship the ground you walk on, and then you have people who don't respect anything that you do. You have people who's like 3.5 championships. So what? 40,000 points or 50,000 if you're combining playoff points, because that's what we do for LeBron James, is we change the standards and make up stuff. 50,000 points. So what? Was it over 10,000 assists? So what? Who cares? Who cares about any of that when you've cheated the game? And that's the thing that You know, fanboys don't want to accept about this side of the content creators. The content creators who see LeBron James for what it is. It's like that's what they can't understand. It's like, I don't need to talk to you about stats with LeBron James. Like, nothing he does matters at this point. Like, he spent his whole career cheating the game. Man, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to sidetrack for a minute. Shout out to AOH Steam Engine, Self-Research Basketball Facts, 93 Zay, and everybody who was on the Sunday panel. I came through for a minute, and one thing that was brought up is someone asked the question, do you guys ever have anything good to say about LeBron James? And I think I had to get off. I can't even remember if anybody answered the question or not. But somebody messaged and said, do you guys ever have anything good to say about LeBron James? And I won't speak for everybody else who was on the panel. I will speak for myself. That is a no for me. I don't have anything good to say about LeBron James. And why, you may ask, why don't I have anything good to say about LeBron James? Because once you've been deemed a cheater, I don't care what you do good after that. You know, once the majority of your career, you know, that's like someone who's I don't know. That's like being on a job with someone and you've been on a job with them for, let's say you've been on a job with them for 20 years. And for 20 years, you know that this person slacks off. Like, you wind up doing most of the work, or the rest of the crew winds up doing most of the work because this one person slacks off 70% of the time. 70% of the time. But then when he does one good thing, he wants praise for it. No! You slacked off 70% of the time. LeBron James, you spent most of your career figuring out how to take shortcuts, figuring out how to cheat the system. So I don't have anything good to say. Not only that, but anything he does good, I'll look at it with the side eye. I'm looking at it like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can really have full confidence that this so-called good thing he did is legitimate. And this can be anything. This can be whether it's one of these, so-called humanitarian things that fanboys like to bring up, or whether it's actually having a good game on the court. I don't care what it is. I don't have any good thing to say because I feel like he spent too much of his career cheating the game. So, you know, someone asked that on the Sunday panel, and for all of you fanboys, that is my answer. But anyway, shout out to @Swan Daily. Thank you so much for the $2 super thanks. And thank you so much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @G the Great One. This is coming from the same video about Michael Jordan's leadership style. He says, this is 1,000% facts. There are no real men in the NBA. These guys are lazy, weak, selfish, cowards, and not real men. I never understood why people criticize Michael Jordan's leadership style. It gets results. Isn't that the goal? Also, if you are doing your job, you don't have anything to worry about. Scottie was fortunate enough to have the privilege to play alongside Jordan from day one. It made him an all-time great. Facts. And let's be real. The only people who complain about Jordan's leadership style are LeBron James fanboys. For two reasons. Because they're soft, and because they're looking for a reason to say LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. Oh, well, LeBron James, leader, he didn't have to be mean to his teammates. He could be liked, and he could be dancing all around the court. And and he can also be 4-6 in the finals while putting together super teams. He can also do that too, fanboys. So yeah, facts. Shout out to Ed G, the great one. Thank you so very much for the $2 super thanks and your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to Alex Santiago 3181. This is coming from Larry Bird. Says fans don't watch the NBA anymore, and he doesn't either. It is a sad day when a legend like Larry Bird can't watch the game he used to love. Sad day. He comes through with the $2 super thanks. He says, basketball today is more about flash and stats than it is about competition and desire to win. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. And this is pretty much what Larry Bird was saying in that article. You know, it's like basketball is missing the grit and the unpredictability. You know, and I think I said to me, it's like basketball is missing its soul. You know, basketball, sports in general used to feel like a battle of wills. It used to feel like a battle of wills, and now it feels like, honestly, like it almost feels like a factory job. And what I mean by that is like, you know, a job where you're just doing this repetitive thing to try to accomplish a goal, you know, and it's like that repetitive thing that they're doing is chucking up threes. Like, what team can chuck up the most threes and happen to hit them at a high enough clip to win the game? But basketball used to feel like a battle of will. You know, going into the post and grinding it out. And I'm gonna say this, you know, and you know, this may be an unpopular opinion, but a lot of people agree that in the late 90s, maybe late 90s, kind of early 2000s, that the game had got too slow. And I think that was definitely the complaint once Michael Jordan retired in 98. But that never bothered me. Like, that never bothered me. I would much rather see some hard fought for baskets than what we see today. I would much rather see hard fought for baskets. I would much rather see a game where the score is, you know, 75 to 85 than a game where the score is 140 to 110. Because there's so many blowouts nowadays due to the fact that it's live and die by the three. But anyway, shout out to Alex Santiago 3181. Thank you so very much for the $2 super thanks, and thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @Trey04Will coming through with the $5 super thanks, and this is coming from the Michael Jordan's leadership video. He says, thanks. NBA 1949 through 2015, NBA AU 2016 to present. Jordan might catch an assault charge trying to deal with these entitled AAU brats posing as NBA players. Yeah, you know, again, you know, it kind of really just goes back to once Kobe Bryant left the league, that was the end. And you, a couple of things that it makes you think about is how much the right person being there can prop the league up. You know, again, Kobe Bryant was the last one holding that standard, and even though, you know, his last few years, he was not the same Kobe. You know, he still had that mentality. And just one person in the league having that mentality makes a difference. Now, it would have been even better if that one person was actually the face of the league. But unfortunately, the face of the league had the exact opposite mentality. You know, but anyway, shout out to @Trey04Will. Thank you so much for the $5 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @TheRealSiberius. This is coming from my LeBron James interview with Pat McAfee shows he's a hypocrite. He says, The players today could put an end to this entire argument about they are better than past eras. With all the power you have now, demand they reinstitute hand checking and get rid of the 3-second rule. Insist you will be able to play the exact same rules as the 90s and prove you are just as good with actual defense. You won't though, because if you are being honest with yourselves, you know you aren't. But you could put an end to this once and for all if you had the balls to stand behind your false claims. Says Jordan and the other greats don't have to prove anything because they did it. Stop talking and put up or shut up. Your lack of basic fundamentals of the game, your lack of bag, and your inability to put in the actual work it would take speaks far louder than your weak, empty words. Talk is cheap. Prove it. Tell them you will strike if they do not bring back defense. This is how you save your dying league. Force them to do it, and in the process you can show the world and all of us old heads you hate so much that we are wrong, that we were delusional with nostalgia. There, the NBA is fixed. Ratings would skyrocket. Lastly, Jordan is a boomer and you can't catch or surpass him. Let that sink in. Shout out to @TheRealSiberius. Whoa, okay. LeBron James fanboys. This is facts. All of the whining that these modern NBA players do, if they wanted to, they could bring the game back to where it was. They could bring back the physicality. These players, Adam Silver, Adam Silver bends over backwards or forwards to every demand that these players have. He just lets them do whatever they want. So if these players really wanted to show what they were made of, bring back the old school rules and show that you can do all your fancy and flashy dribbling with some hand checking, show that you can come through the lane when this big man can stay in the lane again. Prove it. But we all know that none of these modern NBA players want to do that. I can say that with certainty. None of them want to do that. At least none of them that we can see that's making the big bucks. None of the stars that they would not want to do that. LeBron James fanboys, you guys would not want that. Because I don't think I could be any more certain about anything in my life than to know that all these players who are so-called so skilled would not look the same with that kind of defense being played. I can guarantee you that. And how? Let me get this. How can I guarantee that? Because these players play today now like the and one mixtapes used to be. And as flashy as that stuff was, and and it could get the crowd oohing and ahhing and all that, we all know that you could not have done that in the NBA. For one reason, a lot of that stuff was illegal like they do now. A lot of that stuff was carrying and all kind of stuff that are breaking the rules, but when the context of street ball and everybody's out there watching, flash gets the crowd oohing and ahhing. But the other thing is, you can't do that stuff with somebody really getting into you defensively and being able to hand check you. Like, that's a whole different story. That you're gonna have to switch up what you're doing. But anyway, shout out to @TheRealSiberius. Thank you so very much for the $5 super thanks, and thank you so very, very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @TheDoctor. 3196 coming through with the $2 super thanks. This is from my Stephen A. Smith calls LeBron James a liar, two-faced, and passive-aggressive. LeBron James fanboys. This is your king, and we all knew this before Stephen A. said a word. He says, Two Raw mentioned LeBron foolishly burning bridges at the 11th hour when his career is nearing the end. The media knows all of his skeletons in the closet, and he's not just rampaging against the people he should not upset. From Stephen A. Smith to Windhorse, this guy doesn't understand how much work he has ahead of him to maintain his fake narrative for years to come once he retires. And he's just destroying the foundations even more than he has already done. He's going to go down like Nero of Rome, a very disgusting historical tyrant, and the media is going to let Rome burn. Get your popcorns ready. Shout out to At the Doctor 3196. This is all facts. I'm going to disagree with one thing in here where he says he's just destroying the foundations even more. I would argue there is no foundation for LeBron James' legacy. That's the problem. Is LeBron James is living in a mansion that is built with no foundation. LeBron, the 4 and 6 kingdom isn't built on a foundation. Fanboys, this is how fragile this is how fragile this kingdom is. And again, this is why we're seeing it cracking already, and LeBron James hadn't even retired yet. You know, here's something that's going to be interesting. Is with the rate LeBron James is going this year, as far as burning bridges, is he actually going to attempt to play another year now? Like with what he's doing now, probably so, because the guy's just so delusional, so self-absorbed, you know, so arrogant, so clueless, so oblivious that, again, you know, he's the kind of person who just can't read the room. So he probably will, but the rate he's going, as if he's going at a rate as if someone who is about to retire. Like this is your last year, you know, it's like you're getting fired and cussing your boss out on the way out the door. This is how LeBron James is going about things right now. It's like this is his last year. You know, hopefully it is, but I just have a feeling that, like I said, this guy's clueless. But anyway, shout out to At the Doctor 3196. Thank you so much for the $2 super thanks. Thank you so very, very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to at Trey04Will. This is coming from my LeBron James makes fun of Brian Windhorse, Platinum CFL member. Fanboys, remember that. He comes through with the $2 super thanks. He says, thanks. Windhorse is gonna cry in the car. With friends like LeBron James, who needs enemies? With 7 laughing emojis. Facts. Except the Windhorse crying in the car. Man, see, this is what's so disturbing is I saw Windhorse in some video where he was like addressing what LeBron James said, and Windhorse seems to be relatively unbothered by it. Like he seems to be like dedicated to capping for LeBron James and being willfully abused by LeBron James. He seems to be a willing participant in what's happening. So, you know, strange, but LeBron James fanboys, you guys are all the same. Like I said, I'm pretty sure. Maybe we should just start calling you all Savannah or Savannah wannabes or something. I don't know. Anyway, shout out to at Trey04Will. Thank you so much for the $2 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to at Shifting to Success. This is coming from my LeBron James is burning all bridges. He says, uncommon. Of course, Moose knew he was leaving Cleveland the first time. after he got eliminated in the playoffs and he took off his jersey and threw it in the crowd. He did an interview and said he was changing his number next season. And the reason he gave? Because he has so much respect for MJ and he believes everyone should retire number 23. The real reason, because Miami was one of only 2 franchises that has the number 23 retired, and you can't wear that number on a team. So he already knew he was going to Miami. The big lies started during that interview and have only gotten worse since. Thank you for all of your content, brother. Coming from a fellow percussionist. Shout out to @Shifting to Success. Yeah, that's what's up, fellow percussionist. All right. Yeah. And so that's another point. I think I brought up the fact that D Wade came out and said they were already colluding to do this. So again, this whole LeBron James didn't know until up into the hour, so to speak, and up into that big spectacle. It's completely ridiculous. Like, LeBron James purposefully deceived everyone. He deceived the fans of Cleveland. He deceived the front office of Cleveland. And he's deceiving you fanboys by you guys thinking that you have any chance to get some minutes in with your king. But yeah, and like I said, like Shifting to Success was saying, him taking off the number, talking about he was changing his number. Yeah, in hindsight, of course he already knew that. But what do you expect? Again, when we talk about, we were talking about this on the Sunday panel. It's like, why we talk about character so much with LeBron James? Because it all ties together. Someone who takes shortcuts the way LeBron James has is why his career is like it is why he's 4-6, and it is why he would spend so much time flopping. Is why he's a passive aggressive leader. All these things about his character ties into how his career has turned out. And that's why we talk about that so much on this channel, because all the things about Michael Jordan's character is why his career turned out that way. All the things about Larry Bird's character is why his career turned out that way. Magic Johnson. And we're not just talking about the accomplishments. Again, when I say why his career turned out that way, I'm talking about in totality, including respect from the fans. This is why LeBron James doesn't have it, and he can't get it. Yeah, you can shortcut your way to the accolades and the statistics, but like Michael Jordan said, you can't fool the consumer. You can't fool the consumer of the product. You can't give me Jim Beam and tell me it's Crown Royal. You can't fool the consumer of the product. But anyway, shout out to @Shifting to Success. Thank you so very much for the $10 super thanks, and thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @GreatJuice. This is coming from is the LeBron James era really bigger, stronger, and faster? And he says, lies and excuses is LeBron's true legacy in one short sentence. and facts, that's all it takes. Lies and excuses is LeBron's legacy. Facts. Shout out to @GreatJuice. Thank you so much for the $5 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @StoryGames 8520. It's coming from the same video. He comes through with the $2 super thanks. He said, D Wade should have known better. It's like trying to form a strong relationship with the homewrecker, man or woman. They just gonna leave you in the same way they left their other people. Facts. Facts. D Wade should have known better. D Wade should have known that, hey, if a guy will up and leave his franchise the way LeBron James left it, he should have known that all the plans that they were making that they were making together as this super team wasn't going to last. That as soon as LeBron James felt it was something better for him to do, he was going to do it. But, D Wade has lost a lot of respect over the past few years for various reasons. We all know. But shout out to @StoryGames8520. Thank you so very much for the $2 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @TheDoctor3196. He comes through with the $2 super thanks. And this is coming from my LeBron James says ex-NBA players aren't smart. He says, let's face it, LeBron just doesn't give a anymore. He better get his crisis actors for his Hall of Fame bought and paid for. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, LeBron James is really acting like someone who this is their last year. Like I said, he's really acting like that worker who's cussing their boss out on the way out the door, except, LeBron James is as clueless as his fanboys. So despite all of this, he probably will be back next year. I would almost say it's certain just for the fact that he got Luka, so he got a chance to potentially get a championship off the back of Luka and have the mainstream media praise him for winning his 5th championship despite Luka doing all the heavy lifting, and they'll say, LeBron James, he made Luka play on another level. But anyway, shout out to @TheDoctor3196. Thank you so much for the $2 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @Trey04Will. This is coming from the same video. He comes through with the $2 super thanks. He says, thanks. LeBron James is the GOAT at playing the victim and contradicting himself. Facts. What never comes up when talking about LeBron James is his lack of killer instinct. That's why, in my eyes, he will never surpass players like Jordan, Kobe, Bird. Hell, name any player that put the team on his back and won a gold medal or a championship. They bring up basketball IQ instead because they know the system is only effective if there's an assassin waiting in the wings willing to break the system and take over the game. If you're waiting on LeBron James to take over, you'll end up in the loser's locker room. Facts. Yeah, like I said, LeBron James is only a killer when other killers are around. He's that kind of person that, he can only be a tough guy when he's surrounded by people ready to fight. Kind of like Scottie Pippen. Like Scottie Pippen was to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had to stand up to the bully for Scottie Pippen to feel like he could stand up to the bully. And this is kind of like what LeBron James is. LeBron James has to have another player on his team that actually has more of a killer mentality than he does to actually be effective. Same with Kevin Durant. That's why Kevin Durant hasn't been able to get it done since he left Golden State, because Kevin Durant is not a killer. Kevin Durant is not a leader. Kevin Durant is simply someone who's good at basketball, good at the skills of basketball, so to speak, and clock in and he does his job and he leaves. But he's not a killer or a leader. So he can only perform when he's surrounded by people who can help him feel big and bad. But anyway, shout out to @Trey04Will. Thank you so much for the $2 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @G_the_Great_One. This is coming from the same video. Coming through with the $2 super thanks, he says, it is amazing how the faces of the league of the past sounded so much more intelligent than today's face of the league. Magic, Bird, Wilt, Russell, Dr. J, and Kobe were insightful, intelligent, humble, and thought-provoking in their interviews. LeBron sounds like a damn idiot when he speaks. I wonder if he actually graduated from high school sometimes, or did they just hand him a diploma? I really cannot stand this clown. He represents everything that is wrong with today's NBA. He only cares about himself and his money. He could care less about the fans, franchises, or the past, present, or future of the NBA. That is facts, facts, and facts. Facts. Yeah, LeBron James doesn't care about the past, present, or future of the NBA. Yeah, exactly. His disrespect of the past players and eras, I hope will be the final nail in his coffin. I really wish someone would build a time machine so we could see Jordan, Bird, Magic, Wilt Russell, Dr. J. Barkley, and Karl Malone kick his A up and down the court. I'd really like to see him survive a series versus the bad boy Pistons or the early 90s Knicks. Hell, can you imagine what kind of not Wilt or Nate Thurman would have put upside his head for being disrespectful towards their era? I'm positive that LeBron would call in sick for all of those old school games. He don't want the smoke, and that's why we call him the Duck. Yeah, of course he would call in sick. We would see he would take the name Duck to a whole new level. And yeah, the thought of LeBron James going up against the Pistons or Knicks like that made me laugh immediately as I was reading it. and which is a shame, because all they talk about is how strong this guy is, you know, how well he keeps himself. But I've always said this, like, you know, strong in the body does not make strong in the mind. Like, I know a lot of guys who are big and buff and are cowards. This is a fact. And I would argue a lot of time the guys who are big and buff, they get that way because they are cowards. Like, they're trying to compensate because they don't feel secure. So they feel like by getting all these muscles is, you know, it's going to make them more manly. And it's like, no, the muscles aren't your problem. And this is LeBron James, you know, where, you know, he got the look of someone who's, you know, big and buff, but again, he's weak. And to see him go up against someone like the bad boy Pistons, who were real men, again, you know, I talk about, like, you know, through the generations, men have gotten weaker overall because life has allowed them to. You know, players in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they didn't have the luxury of being weak. So even if they didn't have the cut look, you know, guys like Rick Mahorn and people like that they'd have made LeBron James quit basketball, you know. But shout out to @G the Great One. Thank you so much for the $2 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, shout out to @TheRealSiberius, coming from the same video. A lot of comments on this video. He says, nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Martin Luther King Jr. Facts. All fanboys need to realize that we, unlike them, are not sycophants, and we do not speak dumb F. They, like their king, must have only read or likely pretend to have read the first page of a book and never continue past it. Apparently, grammar, spelling, and context are not a part of the fanboy curriculum, and yet arrogance, ignorance, and idiocy are all taught at an AP level. Shout out to @TheRealSiberius. I think we've seen enough examples to know what level these fanboys are operating on. And, you know, it's really... fanboys, for you, is really a shame. Because, honestly, like I said, you guys really don't understand that you are the joke right now. It's like you show up on this channel and you continue to call people haters, call me a hater, and hurl insults, and I really think to myself, like, how hilarious this is. Like, it's just not only hilarious, but I will say it's somewhat it's perplexing to think that a human being can cap so hard for a guy who has done clearly deplorable things throughout his career. And you know, you don't know the guy. I know you want to know the guy. I know you think that if you ever met the guy, that somehow you will become best friends, but you need to wrap your head around the fact that he probably wouldn't even sign an autograph for you. You know, I know you guys dream of being Savannah. I know there are so many hopes and wishes that you are dreaming about, thinking that it is going to be your reward for capping for LeBron James all your life. But I'm here to tell you there is no light at the end of the tunnel. I'm here to tell you there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And I'm here to tell you that LeBron James, I mean, just look at Brian Windhorst. that is your example right there. A guy who caps that hard for LeBron James, and LeBron James goes and just unprompted for no reason calls him a weirdo. Without reservation, he's laughing and kikiing because this is how he feels. And the funny thing is about with the gripes that he's having against mainstream media right now, you would think that he would be particularly grateful for the ones who cap for him as hard as Brian Windhorst does. You would think that he would be particularly grateful for that. But again, that's called entitlement. Fanboys, he believes he's entitled to your defense, and apparently you guys are here for the abuse from both sides. Anyway, shout out to At The Real Siberians. Thank you so much for the $2 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel, and we are nearing the end, people. Next up, shout out to at Thanos Snap Feminism. He comes through with the $2 super thanks. He says LeBron saying ex-NBA players in the interview was the passive-aggressive shot at Charles Barkley. You can listen to the both of them talk and immediately know who has more knowledge. If LeBron had more knowledge, why does he have the exact same free throw percentage as Chuck at 73.8%? Yeah, I mean, well, we can go on a long tirade about LeBron James showing how much knowledge he actually has. And, you know, and the thing that I've said about LeBron James before, you know, this high IQ that everybody keeps talking about, you know, it is almost like book smarts. And I'm saying almost, but you know, this is about the closest comparison I can make. It's almost like book smarts versus street smarts. And all the greats are street smart when it comes to basketball. And when I say that, it's like it's instinctual. Like it's letting your instincts guide you to where you don't have to think the game, so to speak. You know, it's like in music, you know, there's a saying, it's like you practice hard and then once you get on the bandstand, you forget it. In other words, you practice it enough so that it's second nature. You know, but once you get on the bandstand, you shouldn't be having to think about things like that. And I think it's the same thing with basketball. Like you practice and you study enough so that the game is second nature to you and it becomes instincts. So and when I think about players with the great instincts for the game, that's, you know, intuitive about the game, about their vision on the court. That's the Larry Birds and Michael Jordans and Kobe Bryants and Magic Johnsons. Those are the guys that I think about, you know, who truly have a high level of IQ for the game of basketball. But LeBron James is more someone who's street smart. He's like someone who's like, I know every play. I could flip plays backwards when I was 8 years old, but has no clue of how to deal with it when things don't go the way he's expecting it to go. And this is why when he's on the court, he always looks to me like he's overthinking. But it looks like he's overthinking on the court all the time to me. He doesn't look like he just has that natural instinct to know what should be happening. And of course, too, part of that is just the fact that, again, when you think you're so smart, then you already lost the battle. Because, the smart people know that there is no such thing as knowing everything. The smart people knows that there is no such thing as knowing enough. It's always learning. For the rest of your life, you're learning. Michael Jordan, this is why Michael Jordan could do what he did on the Washington Wizards on one leg. On an injured leg, and still putting up 40 and 50-point performances. This is why because Michael Jordan has true basketball knowledge, true instincts for the game. But anyway, what else is new? Shout out to Ed Thanos Snap Feminism. Thank you so much for the $2 super thanks. Thank you so very much for your continued support of the channel. Next up, Swan Daily coming through with the $2 super thanks. He says, Giannis finally responded. LeBron, can you please give your thoughts on it? Looks like the Greek Freak is Team OG. Okay. I don't think I've seen that yet, so I will check that out and probably do a video on it in the next day or two. Shout out to Ed Swan Daily. Thank you so very much for the $2 super thanks. And last but not least, Swan Daily again coming through with another $2 super thanks. He says, if humans evolve like technology, there wouldn't be post-apocalyptic sci-fi movies, nor would people be worried about AI right now. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Again, when you listen to people like LeBron James and Draymond and anybody in mainstream media trying to sell you on this notion like since the days of Wilt Chamberlain, humans have had 100,000 years of evolution. This is what they try to sell you on. Of course, we're bigger, stronger, and faster today. Wilt Chamberlain played in the 60s. That was just 65 years ago? But again, it's completely ridiculous. Like I said, humans are not like technology. Technology is something that, generations can build upon because the information is there and the next generation can pick up on where the last generation left off. Humans are not like that. We are biological creatures. So it's what's there is there. The only thing that changes is the circumstances, and I believe we adapt to the environment that we're in. And like I said, humans in general are weaker nowadays because society allows us to be weaker. Back in the day when things were harder, men had to be more manly. Men were stronger. Like I said, my grandfather was incredibly strong. But anyway, we gonna hold up here. Shout out to everyone who gave super chats. Thank you all so very much. Shout out to everyone who continues to support the channel. I truly cannot thank you all enough. And like I say at the end of all of these videos, please continue to support all of the content creators who are giving you the honest, truthful takes, who are the opposite of the mainstream media, who are giving you the other side, who are giving you the other argument, who are giving you arguments that aren't based on trying to project a certain image about the NBA that isn't true. Shout out to Angry Old Hoops. Shout out to Sports and Fitness Ranch. Shout out to Man Down Sports, Sports Tea, Self-Research Basketball Facts. Shout out to 93Z, to Spin Engine. Shout out to Uncut Hoops, Scap Attack, Too Raw for Sports, Ticket TV, Dreamers Pro, and anybody else who I may be forgetting. Oh, shout out to the Format Podcast. Please continue to support all of these content creators. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about any of the comments that we went over today. You all have a truly, truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.